Have you ever wondered if or not you should use an immigration lawyer to process your application? Many immigration lawyers are advertising on their websites and social media to have you come to them so that they can file your application to the Citizenship Immigration Canada. And sometimes you wonder, should you go to the lawyer to have your application filed, or you can do it on your own? Let us start with the policy from the Government of Canada directly. By the way, before I proceed, when I use the word lawyer, there are three categories of representation which the Government of Canada details, and they are just not only lawyers, but they are also two different categories called ICCRC. I'll show you on the screen. Now, these are called paid representative. These are called authorized paid representative. Anybody who charges money to give you advice or to handle your application, and if they are legally charging money, that means they're giving you receipt and they are confirming that they're taking money from you, they better be authorized to charge money. So there are three categories of those representative. One is called lawyers and paralegals. It's right here on the screen. Lawyers and paralegals. So they must be member of a Canadian provincial or territorial law society. It's like in some countries called bar association. Here we call it as law society. I'll give you some example of a law society where I am in Alberta. The second category is called notaries, who are members in good standing of Chamber des Notariés du Québec. My French is not that great, but this is what it is. The third category is, of course, members of ICCRC. So three categories: lawyers and paralegals who are members of law society. The second is members in good standing of the Quebec, which is called Quebec Notary. And the third is the ICCRC member. So these are the three people, according to the Canadian government, who can take money, who can charge you a fee, and then offer services because they are regulated. So they can be tracked by these membership societies so that they can regulate them. So if nothing bad is happening, but of course sometimes it does happen, but you are better off going to one of these because their work is regulated. Now there's a different category called unpaid representative. Unpaid is somebody like, for example, if one of my family members who's helping me fill up a form or application, or a friend or a third party. Sometimes they are non-profit bodies who charge. No, I'm sorry, I take it back. They don't charge. They are funded by other bodies like government and other, maybe voluntary, but they do not charge to make your application. So you can go to either unpaid or paid. But if you go to paid, these are the three. Now, I've got to use the word lawyer just for convenience, but I mean when I refer to lawyer, that means I refer to authorized paid representative. You got to understand that there are a lot of consultants, travel agents, and so-called immigration advisors on the internet and physically located in many parts of the world. They are proclaiming their expertness in doing a certain application, but if they are not a member of these three right here, lawyers, Quebec Notaries, or ICCRCs, and you are taking a risk. So you have to be very careful what you do and who you deal with. The Government of Canada also is specifying, look at those bold big letters on the screen, you do not need to hire a representative, exclamation mark. It's your choice. Using one will not draw special attention to your application and does not mean we will approve it. All the forms and instructions anybody needs to apply for a visa, permit, or citizenship, they are listed for free on the website of the government. If you follow their directions, you should be able to fill out the forms and submit them yourself. Beware of fraudulent representatives. Protect yourself from fraud. So I got to mention, the government is very serious about protecting the average applicant, the average consumer from fraud, and there is plenty of fraud in the immigration market. So A representative, what does a representative do? If you hire a paid authorized representative, I'm going to use the word lawyer. If you hire a lawyer, what does the lawyer do? Look at on the screen. They explain and give advice on immigration options. They help you choose the best program. They fill out and submit your application. They communicate with the government of Canada on your behalf. They represent you in immigration application, and they can advertise that they can give immigration or citizenship advice. In many simple applications, you don't need a lawyer to prepare your application. Something like a tourist visa or a study visa, and even simple work visas, you really do not need any authorized paid rep to submit and first prepare and then submit your application. Because if you can follow the checklist which is listed on the website of the Canadian Embassy in your country, if you follow the checklist diligently and carefully and completely, I think you will be successful. And there are hundreds of applicants who come to Canada on a temporary or a PR visa without taking the help of an authorized paid rep. But in some cases, an expert who is among those three categories that we saw, I think they will prove to be quite helpful in solving some complex situation in your background. For example, I'll just take one or two, and there could be hundreds. If you have been previously deported from Canada or some other countries, and if you have any charges in your background, criminal charges in your background, and then you are reapplying to go to Canada, it is worthwhile to talk to a lawyer first who has expertise in that area where your charge belongs, so that they can advise you what impact will it have on your future application. So that's one example. Second example I can think of, if you are married to a Canadian citizen and they are sponsoring you, and if you've had certain incompatibilities in proving the bona fides of the marriage, for example, there's a big age gap, or there's a difference in your cultural and societal background where you come from between husband and wife. If you've had other marital, maybe if you have been divorced one or twice, and then your marriage to the current sponsor was done quickly, there's not much history of relationship before the marriage, it is worthwhile to go to an experienced immigration lawyer and discuss those things, because those background information will form a strong basis of your application being approved or disapproved. If you are doing it on your own, it is likely that you will miss out on the finer points on how to prove the bona fides of the marriage. So you have to decide when to go to an immigration lawyer, when not to go to an immigration lawyer. My focus today is to talk of those scenarios where you have to go to an immigration lawyer. And I have listed 5 questions to ask your immigration lawyer. If you really have to go to an immigration lawyer, which I mean ICCRC, Quebec Notary, or a member of a law society, what questions to ask your immigration lawyers just to save yourself some money and time and save some future frustration. Because at many times people have discovered when they go to any lawyer, not only immigration lawyer, go to any lawyer, sometimes the experience does not prove it to be fruitful, and you end up wasting money, and you're dissatisfied with the results. So one of the first questions that I will ask if I am a general applicant for any category of visa immigration, one of the first questions I will want to find out from the lawyer is, are you licensed? Whenever I go to any immigration service provider, I need to know whether they are licensed to and authorized to provide these services. So I need to check their law society membership, or if they are ICCRC member, their membership. If they are a member of Quebec Notary, then their membership. If they are not licensed, then of course I'm taking a big risk in using that person for my application. How to find out whether he is licensed or not? So I mean, directly you can ask the lawyer. If I'm going to a lawyer, if I'm going to his office, I need to first satisfy myself that whether they have the membership, maybe perhaps a number written somewhere on the correspondence on the website or Facebook or somewhere, or when I go to the office I see see those membership information written. Sometimes they hang it on the wall just to impress. So I can check from there, or I can go to a website. For example, if I'm in Alberta right now, so I go to, if you see on the screen, Law Society of Alberta, and this is the website, by the way. So if you are in Canada, or if you are hiring any Canadian lawyer in that province, so it could be in Ontario, BC, Manitoba, anywhere, you should search for Google the Law Society of that provincial, the lawyers, and then type the name. So I am in Alberta, so I'm going to take the example of Law Society of Alberta, and here you are. So for the public, and it says find a lawyer, and then I click on lawyer directory, and it should open up something. And I need to know the name of the lawyer whom I'm considering to hire, and then I should be able to type his name here and first name, and then search. So I don't have any name right now, but let's take, how about just type any name. Let's type the name Singh. Let's see if there's any lawyer by the name of Singh. And let's take a look at what comes up here. If I have the full name, then I think it's better. So I just typed general last name Singh, and I find many names here in Edmonton, Calgary, and so I can see who was licensed in which year, and it also tells me former. That means he was formerly not in right now, and this guy is non-practicing, so I better not go into him. And practicing, and it tells you everything. So this is how, and it gives you the name of the firm as well. So this is a good confirmation that the person whom I'm trying to hire, he is authorized, he's licensed, and there's no. Sometimes if you type certain name, it will tell you here if there's any case against them. Maybe a lot of people have complained against him. If there's any disciplinary action pending against him, so I better watch out. Whom I'm trying to hire. So this is one example of Law Society. Let's take a look at let me say ICCRC. So this is ICCRC website. As you know, you can go to Google and type ICCRC, and you will see a council membership list. And if you know the name of the consultant, you can type here and RC number, and you can get everything here. So I'm just interested, just to show you as example, I'm interested to find out. So there are several categories, all of them who are active, who are in suspensions, and so I just clicked on administrative suspension just to see, and just an example. All right, I don't mean any specific. I'm not trying to besmirch anybody who's suspended, but if I type administrative suspension, and I find some people here, and then I see some names here. So for example, if I was considering going to a certain ICCRC consultant with his name, and I found his name here as suspension, I better back out quickly before they tell me or not, so that I'm protected. So this is how I can search, and similarly you can search for Quebec notary also. So number one question is, are you licensed? I can do my research here on Google, and I can find out from here, and that's how. But if I have any doubt, maybe I should ask the lawyer. Hey, Mr. Lawyer, are you licensed? Can I see your license number, please, if you do not mind? Is there any? Are you a member of good standing? I mean, you have to talk politely, of course, nicely, and if the lawyer is trying to get my business, I don't think they should have any problem in sharing their membership information to me, because hey, if they are good, if they're in good standing, why not? I think but on the contrary, if they are being suspended, or there's been some problem with the professional standing, I think it will show clearly and quickly that they have a problem in sharing that information. So remember, number one question is, are you licensed? Number two question that I need to ask the lawyer is, do you have experience in my specific area? For example, if I'm facing a medical problem, depending on what the complexity of the problem is, I can go to a general doctor or general physician. But if I think maybe my problem requires a specialist, then I should go to somebody who's specialized, MD. And then if I have a heart condition, then from a general physician, I should need to go to a cardiologist. Even in cardiologists, there are several subspecialties. Somebody who just do a clinical cardiologist, somebody who's an interventional cardiologist, somebody who's a congenital cardiologist, somebody who might be a nuclear cardiologist. So I'm looking for a specialist in my area. I'm not looking for a general physician who just knows just the basics of the profession. I need somebody who's a specialist in my area. Similarly, when I go to immigration lawyer, a lot of immigration lawyers, they may be doing immigration practice beside other things. Maybe they're doing bankruptcy, they're doing divorce and civil litigation, tort, contracts, other things. And all of a sudden, a client walks in and say, "Hey, would you like to, do the application for me?" And the lawyer says, "Yes, I'll do it all because I can do all. I can do those and I can do as well." What I need to know is, are you a specialist in immigration or not? And sometimes they are not. So I need to ascertain by asking them directly, are you a specialist? And if you are, what is your area of specialty? Some immigration lawyers in Canada, they just do a certain area only. Some lawyers will only do refugees. Some will do only, PR applications like express entry. Some will only focus on appeals to the Immigration Appeal Division. Some will perhaps take a great interest in judicial review. Some will do only non-immigrant application like study visa, study admission, study visa. I need to know by asking my lawyer, what is your specialty area and do you have interest in this? So that's the question number 2. All right. Question number 3. I need to ask from the lawyer by asking him, do you have client referrals? Do you have client testimonials that I can get from you? If you can provide me some references of the clients who have been dealt in my area. For example, if I'm just walking in to the lawyer and saying, "Look, can you file my refugee application?" Mr. Lawyer, can you provide me some references in this year or last 6 months of any refugee application that you dealt and those were successful, so that I can contact these clients and then get a little feedback? I have to take the permission. You have to let them know whether they are willing to share that information with me or not, because this is a private matter. But whether or not the lawyer actually gives me the client information, it does not matter. What matters is whether he's even willing to even talk about it. Sometimes lawyers are, trying to protect. Of course, they are not. They're not opening up their client information to you because they would think maybe, who knows, the client will talk about them and maybe he'll lose my business. So, if it would be wonderful if they can provide some client references. I can make my own analysis on whether those experiences were good or bad, and then I can decide whether I want to proceed with my application with the lawyer or not. So that's question number 3. Number 4, I need to ask the lawyer, will you give me a retainer agreement? A retainer agreement is a written agreement, which is a written contract between the lawyer and me, which will specify everything that will happen in the application. That means what is the application, what services will be offered, how much money will be exchanged, when the money will be paid, what is the first stage, second stage, or some other alternative way of giving money, what happens if the application gets rejected, what happens if there's a dispute, what is the responsibility of the lawyer, what is the responsibility of the client, which is me, and everything is written clearly, and the client, which is me, I have to sign it, he has to sign it, and we date it, and it becomes a retainer contract. Should there be any dispute, and sometimes there is, then we need to take that written contract and then take it for litigation. So, Mr. Lawyer, will you give me a retainer agreement? Now remember, anybody who is not authorized to offer those legal services, what we are talking earlier about, the 3 categories, I don't think they will be in a position to give you a retainer contract because they themselves are unlicensed. So these are the 3 categories. Just re-emphasize that where are these people? Let's see. Just go on the screen. These are the people. They are obligated. It's mandatory for them to give a retainer contract, and they better. Sometimes because of maybe lack of time, or they are lazy, or the client does not insist one. It's a short application. Maybe a retainer contract is not a part of the deal, and as a client, I need to not only get the retainer contract, but I need to read the retainer contract first to understand what I'm dealing with, what will happen in this transaction. So that's the question number 4. The 5th question, the last question, is what is your policy on customer service and post-submission support? Sometimes, frequently actually, once the transaction has been done, once the application has been submitted, and then there's a follow-up period. So it takes a few months for the application to be transacted. Maybe some applications will go even several years, like a maybe appeal application or or sponsorship application. What is the policy on contacting the lawyer or their staff after the application is done. Occasionally, when you have to call the lawyer's office and say, look, can you give me an update, or the law has changed, can you explain this? And lawyer, because they have already taken some money in advance and they've already done the work, and they possibly may have an attitude that they don't have to talk to you now. Just they will let the secretaries take the call. The lawyers themselves, they say, oh, we are busy, we don't have time to talk to you, or just leave a message, we'll get back to you or something. Or maybe they charge you money for customer service also after the submission. So what happens if there's some requirement for the client to reach the lawyers after office hours? What is the policy? Those are very important parameters on to understand what will be the relationship between the lawyer and the client after the application is submitted. And sometimes some people are not very happy what happens after submission, because the lawyers have made the money and now they don't want to be bothered. So these are the 5 questions I would emphasize that you should ask. If you ask these 5 questions, and if you have a good feeling that you got satisfactory answers, I think your experience with the lawyer will be quite satisfying. So let me just repeat those questions one more time. Number 1, are you licensed? Number 2, do you have experience in my specific area which I'm trying to apply for? Number 3, can you provide me some client testimonials if you have one? Number 4, will I get a written contract, and can I see the written contract first? Number 5, what is your policy on customer service and post-submission support? So those are the important questions that I will definitely ask. And I think if you ask those questions, you will be a happy person. But let me just repeat one more time before I leave you with these 5 questions. The Canadian government says this very clearly: you do not need to hire a representative. Anybody can do application, provided they know how to. They should do it themselves, and that's what my philosophy has been. My personal philosophy has been for the past 5 years. Thank you very much for your time. Please, if you like my information, leave a comment or like, or maybe if you don't like it, just leave a comment and subscribe and let other people know about this information. Thank you very much.